I've been in my job about 3 years, and honestly, the environment is toxic. I was finally offered a position at a different agency with better benefits, but a slight pay cut around $2,000 after all is said and done. I know it's small, but I'm still hesitating. I have tried everything to make things work at my current job, but my managers are overly personal. Is there any way I can change their thinking so I don't have to leave and take a pay cut?
My concern here is that our listener's telling us that she has already done everything. If you're telling me you've done everything, you're usually beyond the point of asking this question to anybody hoping to get an answer of, yeah, stay where you are, work on it. But if you've already been doing these things, it's time to move on then, if you're really this upset about how it feels.
I get it. It hurts to take any pay cut at all. But the word toxic in the very first line of this letter means get out of there and go into this new job. If the pay is not where you want it to be, ask them if you can renegotiate in 6 months. Hey everyone, I'm Jean Chatzky, and thank you so much for joining us today on Her Money. We've got a very special mailbag episode with someone who quite literally wrote the book on how to handle yourself with confidence and class in the workplace. I'm talking about Lizzie Post, great-great-granddaughter of the legendary etiquette expert Emily Post. Lizzie is the co-author of the brand new edition of Emily Post's Business Etiquette. She's also the co-host of the awesome Etiquette podcast, and she's here to help us navigate what can feel like a totally new professional world, especially when so many of us are being asked or told to head into the office without much clarity around what's expected anymore, even regarding what we can and can't wear. You all stepped up and you sent us some really amazing questions about how to handle work etiquette in 2025, from inserting yourself at an all-male strategy meeting to negotiating salaries to knowing when it's time to walk away from a toxic job. But before we dive in, Lizzie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Jean. I really appreciate it. And it's great to be here with your audience.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Can we start with a little bit of background, your background, for anyone who doesn't know Emily Post and the incredible legacy that you are carrying on? Can you share a little bit about her and how her work continues to evolve today?
Sure. Emily Post was essentially a socialite from the turn of the century, from sort of going into from the Gilded Age into the early 20th century. And I find her fascinating because she didn't start a career as a young woman and was famous in her youth. She actually started her book writing on the subject of etiquette at the age of 49. And was a single mother at that point, too. She had been divorced. Fabulously scandalous divorce story. I'll let those who are interested go seek out her biography to get it. But big scandalous divorce. And she never remarried. She became an independent working woman, mother of two. And I think she really found a lot of value in that life. She found she loved work. And I get very excited by that, especially when her whole story of fame and fortune came in the second half of her life. I find that very encouraging.
It's very inspiring.
It is. And there were lots of other etiquette experts out at that time. It was a very popular subject to write on in the 1920s. And Emily's work really resonated because her etiquette was so based in practicality, that while it showed how elite life might be, it also talked about how to deliver that life when you didn't have the budget. You know, how do you make someone feel welcome in your home when you don't have a butler? You know, most of us today don't. But she also looked to youth culture for the etiquette of the day. And so she was really open to the idea that etiquette traditions and the manners that we have change over time, and that we need to pay attention to that and respect that rather than resist against it. So it allowed us to carry on a business 5 generations later, and I'm very excited to be here talking about it still today.
It's amazing. I was saying at the top of the show, business etiquette, boy, it feels more confusing than I think it's ever felt. Why do you think that is? And how much of it has to do with generational differences? How much is changing work cultures? How much is left over from the pandemic, or even just how people define professionalism today?
Yes, 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 and yes. They are all impacting how we see business today. Even the work-life balance. I mean, today, parents are given so much more leeway, thank goodness, than they used to be given in terms of that 9 to 5 time frame that so many of us operate within. And I think it's really interesting to see how tech culture and its casual environments, or environments that encouraged fun and spontaneity, like gave room for that. You know, you could go play ping pong for a while and come up with that brilliant idea, and that was considered good. I think we've seen moments like that happen over the last 25, 30 years that have really eroded our sense of the like Mad Men era work schedule, where you're really devoted to your company, you're a company man, and off you go. I also think that just in general, especially millennial generation, that's my generation, have really started to question why standards are applied. Like, do I work better in that suit, or am I just as good in my leggings? You know what I mean? And I think that's something that we've brought to the table and said that, you know, we can work on the go, we can work in more casual environments effectively. You mentioned the pandemic. We haven't even got to that, and that eroded so many social behaviors and norms. You have a whole generation of kids who either they were in college and weren't getting that socialization and prep for the work world, or they were in those first 4 years of just entering the workforce and didn't get those skills because they're doing it from home, they're doing it remotely. It's the only workplace they've ever known. So many things have changed the world of work that we are working in. And at the same time, traditional manners still really help smooth the way.
We're going to look at exactly how that is by answering some questions from our listeners. So you ready?
I'm ready.
The first question we have comes from Virginia. She's wondering how to speak up when she's the only woman in the room. And she writes, "Hi, help. I need tips on how to engage with older male colleagues in an internal strategy meeting. We had a casual dinner and I felt really left out, especially by one of the men I know well, which is weird because he usually doesn't treat me like that. I'm in my early 40s. They're mostly in their 50s and 60s. I've never met one of them face to face until now. It is frustrating being the only woman in the room. Any tips for staying confident if I start feeling overlooked or talked over?" What do you think?
Oh, break out those positive affirmations for yourself in terms of that feeling confident and looked over before you go into the meeting or into that. There was the mention of the casual dinner the night before. But I think that it is very, very true that women are often encouraged to be invited to participate in a conversation, to wait politely, right? And wait for your moment to enter. And while we do still teach that advice, we do teach it to everybody, not just women. But I think women tend to be encouraged to wait to be invited to participate in conversation. And especially when it comes to business, as long as you aren't being rude about it, I would say get in the fray. Like, let yourself be a part of that. Don't wait to be invited. Say that great thought that you have. Use your conversational skills, your awareness of the pattern of conversation and the flow of conversation to insert yourself in the moments when it feels right. I wouldn't just interrupt somebody halfway through what they're saying to jump in and get your point across, but I would let them finish and then I'd jump in. And if someone started to try to jump in with me, I'd get tough. I wouldn't let them. I'd just keep talking because now they're the person trying to talk over me. And it doesn't always work. There can be awkward moments. I am not promising perfection, but I think you need to be your own advocate in this moment. Later on, you might be able to have discussions with someone like that male colleague who you thought would have known better and treated you differently or treats you differently in non-group situations, about how you've noticed a trend where if you're trying and you're still getting kind of tamped down in the conversation, or people are dismissing you, Now it's time to start getting some allies. And if it gets really bad, it is time to go talk to a manager.
Often in these scenarios, when you do chime in with your brilliant idea, a guy in the room grabs credit for it. How do you handle that part of the equation?
I think making it personal can work in that particular situation. So I've been thinking about this, not, oh, there's an idea about this. So take credit for it. Make it your own. There's been something I've been working on, or, oh, Jeff and I were talking about this and I was telling him. But take credit for the ideas and the thoughts that you come up with. They're probably not the only ones in the room. So you have to remember, you might have been thinking it and Jeff might have also been thinking it. But don't let it be the situation where you put the idea out there and then it's easy for someone else to claim. So if you can speak from your perspective, I think that helps.
That's a really, really valuable piece of advice, because I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of this myself, I'll throw an idea out in a meeting, but I won't claim it, at least not initially.
Yeah.
And if we can train ourselves to actually just use those I words from the get-go,
Yeah.
it's a lot harder to get stepped on. So I think that's one to sort of memorize and practice a little bit.
Yeah.
Our next question is from an anonymous listener. She writes, I'm in the final round of a new job opportunity, which has the same job expectations, a similar title, but much more money, which is exciting. However, I love my current company, so I wasn't necessarily looking to leave until I realized I was underpaid. The new company is a well-known management consulting firm, so I'm worried the bigger paycheck may come with a more stressful work environment. In a perfect world, I'd rather leverage the offer for more pay at my current job. I know that you have to be willing to leave if you try to leverage, which I am, but I'd love to try to work something out first. It's a little sticky because 6 months ago, my current job made a big to-do and gave me a $20,000 raise and promotion, which, while nice, hasn't felt particularly impactful to our household. However, this new offer is crazy money. It's $80,000 more, but I don't even know where to begin with negotiating with my current job. On the surface, it seems like such a big difference that they might not even entertain another bump. Is meeting in the middle even way too aggressive? Will I burn bridges or come across as ungrateful if I bring this up?
It's a tough one, but I also see a really clear path through for your listener, and that's that you have all these wonderful feelings about the bump you were already given, the environment that you work in. Lean into that when you have this conversation, and I do think you should have this conversation with them. If it's enough of an offer that you are actually considering leaving, if you're really considering going, if that's a true statement for you, I would have the conversation with them and I would say, listen, guys, I really love our company. I love working with our team. I love these things about it. I am very grateful for the recent promotion and raise that I received. And at the same time, I have been approached with another offer, and it was such a big offer that I feel I have to consider it, or I'm really uncertain of what to do. Is there any way that you can meet this offer, or is there anything that you would be able to do? Here's what they're proposing. Being honest about the fact that you love this place, you appreciate it, and you appreciate the raise you've been given. I think all do the things you want to do, or you're worried would create a bad impression if you don't do them, or they're left to assumptions. So take control of that. Tell them how you feel about them, how grateful you are, how much you appreciate it, and that this other offer has come unexpectedly into your life, and you're really thinking about it, or you're torn, or you would prefer to stay here, but because of the money, you do have to think about it realistically and practically.
Yeah, and I find, and I've been in this situation as a boss when employees have gotten offers that have just been so high that we either couldn't or wouldn't match them. I think if for my family's sake, I need to consider this. Always is a very, very nice nice way to put it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would. I don't think I would come right out and suggest meeting in the middle. I think you undercut your opportunity to get all the money if you do that.
I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Unless you're so aware of their budget that you really know they can't, maybe. But with you, it's like, don't let them be the ones to take that portion off the table. Don't do it for yourself.
Yeah. All right. Our next question comes from another anonymous listener who's wondering how to change the way her managers see her at work. She writes, I've been in my job about 3 years, and honestly, the environment is toxic. I was finally offered a position at a different agency with better benefits, but a slight pay cut, around $2,000 after all is said and done. I know it's small, but I'm still hesitating. I have tried everything to make things work at my current job, but my managers are overly personal. They constantly say they see me like a daughter, which I have firmly pushed back on. I want to leave professionally without burning bridges, but is there anything else I can do to help them see me as a colleague, not a child? Is there any way I can change their thinking so I don't have to leave and take a pay cut? How do I handle this? Oh my gosh, I relate to this question.
Do you?
So I do, because I think particularly for people who are young and have been at places for a while, maybe it was your first or second job out of school, you stay for a while and yeah, they still think about you as that 22-year-old who entered. You don't, I think it's very, very rare to be able to grow up at a company.
Try working with your dad, your sister,
There you
your
go.
mother, your cousin, and your aunt and your other aunt. Oh my goodness. And a family friend too. It was really tough. I think sometimes they even still think I'm that 20-year-old writing that book on life being independent. But this can happen. My concern here is that our listener's telling us that she has already done everything. If you're telling me you've done everything, you're usually beyond the point of asking this question to anybody hoping to get an answer of, yeah, stay where you are, work on it. The things I would tell you to do are the things of addressing the issue of being treated like a daughter, directly. And when someone says that to you, it is okay to say, I really appreciate the sentiment behind that. However, I am really going to ask that you not think of me as a daughter at work, as it does change the dynamic that we have. And this is a professional setting. It's okay for you to stand up for that, to not take on an identity that you don't want associated with you at work. And I think it's important to address that. But in doing so, it's nice to acknowledge the kind and thoughtful sentiment that the person is trying to get across. They're missing the mark, and that's not great. But you can still dissect those two things apart and appreciate the closeness that they feel with you and say that you just would rather feel it on a peer-to-peer level. So if you want to give that a go again, go for it. But if you've already been doing these things, it's time to move on then, if you're really this upset about how it feels.
Honestly, I mean, at the slight pay cut, I get it, right? The $2,000, it hurts to take any pay cut at all. But the word toxic in the very first line of this letter means get out of there and go into this new job. If the pay is not where you want it to be, ask them if you can, and you've tried to budget, which I'm sure you have. Ask them if you can renegotiate in 6 months. Yeah. Right? Set a date and stick to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Last questions from Holly. Okay. Actually, this is not the last question, Lizzie, because I've got one of my own.
A surprise? Oh,
a surprise. But okay. Next question from Holly. Hi, Jean and Lizzie. I'm gainfully employed and overall am happy with the company I work with. But lately, I felt a little overwhelmed with work and anxious about having to eventually return to the office. I've been looking for remote jobs and noticed a few companies that offer unlimited PTO. So how does unlimited paid time off really work in practice? Can I truly take off as many days as I want? And if not, what's the limit? I'm worried I'd feel guilty even asking for the time if it was longer than 2 weeks or got past a certain number of days. Help. I think unlimited PTO is a trap. I'm just going to put it out there. I don't have it at my company, and I think it's a trap.
From a managerial perspective, absolutely. We also don't have it at Emily Post. We also only have like 2 full-time employees. But this one, while I can't speak to the PTO as much, there was comments about coming back to work and that feeling of returning to work and being uncertain about that. This is something we are getting hit with in the etiquette industry all the time right now. People are really unsure about their behavior in the work environment, in that office setting. And the fun thing about this conversation is that just because the pandemic changed a lot of stuff, it did not actually change our manners in this department that much. Starting each day by greeting your coworkers, making sure that you've, made face-to-face contact with your team or the people that you do see daily and giving them a good greeting and acknowledging them in the morning. Same with leaving, actually saying goodbye at the end of the day. Making sure that you're being appropriate about your availability. So if you have a door to your office, making sure you open the door when you're no longer on a call that needs to be private, making sure you close it when you do need that privacy for a conversation or for getting some work done. Using our calendars effectively. Clear communication is very kind. Our calendars are nothing short of communication tools. Like being clear with them, making sure that you're accepting appointments and showing up for what you need to be showing up for on time, being punctual. These are all classic manners. I am not saying anything that you have not heard throughout your entire scholastic and professional life. And it's all going to come back as soon as you start stepping through that door again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually think the people that I know, even the young people that I know that have gone back to the office, hybrid or even full time, are actually enjoying being around other people again.
Socializing. It's like, it's real. But will you tell me more about the PTO? And you had said you don't, from a managerial perspective, you don't think the PTO unlimited is a good time. How would you advise an employee to use it?
I think you, much like the advice that we once got to sort of dress for the job that you want.
Love that advice.
Yeah. I mean, I think you actually look at the people at the company who have the positions that you want and how they're handling it, and you follow their lead, right? And if it, because even when it's unlimited, quote unquote, every organization has standards that are set, that are accepted. And it's when you try to operate outside the lines of what the company hasn't stated is acceptable, but clearly believes is acceptable, you're going to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, I love that advice. Sorry. I'm going to have to keep taking that one, putting it in my back pocket.
All right. Here's my question, Lizzie, and it came out of a Washington Post story. You can now hire somebody to quit your job for you for $350.
Really?
You can. If you don't want to, if you are just, you don't have the mojo to go in and quit your job yourself, you can pay somebody to do it for you. What do you think about this?
My very first thought is that's a job that's going to get taken away by AI so fast it's not even going to last on the market. That's going to be we are all going to have our little AI right in. I didn't think about it before, and I absolutely think that is something that'll just start, that when you're ready, you will have your AI write your resignation letter and send it in for you. Why that's terribly hard, I don't know. I think if you're ready to leave, either because you're angry, frustrated, fed up, or it's one of these toxic environments that we've been talking about, you usually feel pretty good about doing it. When it's a group you're closer with, and maybe you're leaving because your family is moving to a different area or something else that's a little less in your control, usually you want to make that connection with somebody else, so you wouldn't hire someone to do it. This is are we going to start hiring people to make our phone calls for us? Because I know there's stuff about this upcoming generations are terrified of the telephone. I'll be curious where it ends and where we end up really encouraging ourselves to be responsible and do things in person and make the connection. It's going to drive the value of that way up, I think.
I think so too. And I actually think that the quitting of a job and the way that you quit a job is an opportunity to make a really good last impression.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. And I think the more we flex these muscles, the stronger and easier things like this get. And so I think if you're not afraid of it, it's like you just, the first time you do it, it might feel a little awkward. Second, third time, you're a pro, you know.
Lizzie, this was so much fun. I hope you'll come back and do it again.
I would love to.
Oh my gosh. For our listeners, if you want to dig even deeper into modern business etiquette, grab a copy of Lizzie's new book. It's called Emily Post's Business Etiquette. It is packed with useful advice for every stage of your career. And of course, thanks to all of you who sent in questions. Please keep them coming. Lizzie, what a pleasure. Thank you.
Jean, thank you so much. Have a great day.
You as well. And thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.